Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz interview series with Kansas City jazz trumpeter Hermon Mehari. We spoke to Hermon from Paris, France on the eve of releasing his first big solo album called Bleu, and it comes out on March 17, 2017. He had the chance to team up with some stellar cats to produce this album, like the star from Kansas City, now based in Paris, Mr. Logan Richardson, and local KC cats like drummer Ryan Lee and vibesman Peter Schlamb. Hermon is excited, talented, and ready for the next step in his jazz career. He talked to us about that and so much more. So please dig this interview, my friends.
So how does Paris look today?
It's a sunny day, actually. It's a clear skies. It's pretty sunny, and it's like it's that tease of spring that's coming. You know, it's pretty cool.
Well, we're kind of going through the same thing here in Kansas City, and what I would surmise out of all of this is that the gods are smiling on you releasing your newest album, Bleu. So congratulations right up front.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So everything's probably an absolute whirlwind, and I'm sure that's to your delight.
Yes, for sure.
So before we get into the sounds and get into the studio and the construction of this first solo album of yours, give me an idea of just kind of the whirlwind and what's going on as far as you getting ready to release this tomorrow, March 17, 2017.
One of the things is like I'm promoting it pretty strongly in France because I've kind of invested quite a bit into Paris over the years. It's a really important place for me. You know, I feel like since I've built an audience over here, I really want to kind of build on that more and really push the record on this side of things. So I've been doing that while simultaneously trying to make things like pretty strong on the state side as well.
So talk to me about this album. I know it was a long time making. I know there was a lot of Kansas City cats that are on this album. There's a Logan Richardson connection that goes into this. So give me an idea of how this album, from the alpha to the omega, which is now with the release. Talk to me about this album.
I am fortunate that, first of all, I've put together quite a cast of players, a pretty incredible team, basically my dream team, if I was to be pretty blunt. You know, I'll start with the local guys first, or rather the Kansas City guys. Ryan Lee, who I've been playing with for, 10 years or so at this point, who plays in the group that we play in the group Diverse together. He's one of the best drummers in the world. I'm very convinced of that, and there was no question that he's the drummer I wanted for this. And likewise, Peter Schlamb is one of the most amazing musicians I've ever met. So those two guys were very, kind of my anchor, just because they're like really, really close friends of mine. So having them on my project was really, really important. But then beyond that, I have Rick Rosado on bass, who's one of my favorite bass players. He lives in New York. And I knew that he would be able to accomplish the aesthetic that I was looking for, as well as being such a phenomenal bass player. And then the other two guys, Aaron Park is one of the most sought-after piano players right now. He's on ECM, and he used to be on Bleu. He's, at this point, he's like a young legend, I think, is kind of the space he filled. It was an honor to have him on the recording, and I'm looking forward to working with him again. And probably the most influential musician to me, and someone I've been playing with for a while now, is Logan Richardson. And I'm blessed to have him on the record. It's amazing. Putting the team together was really important. And then conceptually, as my debut album, I wanted to still kind of showcase, who I am in a sense where, yes, on the album you're going to hear some trumpet stuff, but it's not like trumpet. It's about the group. It's not just about me. And I've always kind of like that's kind of in my personality, and it's kind of the philosophy I have with how I want to do my groups. I want to have strong groups in which everyone's part is equally important. About half of the songs are mine. One of them is Peter. One of them is by another friend of mine named Max Cudworth at Sunset Park. Did a couple of standards and a cover by a singer-songwriter from New York named Nick Hakim. And the song is called Cold. It features Kansas City vocalist Kevin Johnson.
So obviously, it's your debut solo album, and for obvious reasons, you want saturation, you want people to get this, but what do you really want those that purchase this album to get from this, to feel your voice and kind of the mood and mode of what you want them to get from this music?
I want them to see who I am. I'm branding it with my name and it's my picture on front, and so it's very, very Hermon, and I feel like you can really understand where I'm coming from in terms of, my trumpet playing, obviously, but my philosophy on what I consider this music to be. I mean, you can call it jazz or not. I try not to define it too strictly, and I think you'll hear that, for instance, every composition sounds different. All the songs sound different. That's something I've always tried to do, even with Diverse. If you listen to the Diverse records, none of the songs sound similar. And one thing I am definitely proud of is that, it doesn't sound like a typical, modern jazz New York album is coming out. And it's been a cool thing. I think some of us, in the Midwest, like Peter Schlamb and Matt Zillinger and Logan, kind of have accomplished, because it's kind of New York sound, and I'm not dogging a New York sound. I'm just saying it's cool to have something that kind of stands apart from what's been happening on the East Coast.
I've been fortunate over the years to see you live, tearing it up on stage, listening to your music with Diverse and other outfits in town. And what I want to kind of do is ask you this in a reflective way. You come from Jeff City, you move to Kansas City, you get really quality education at UMKC from Bobby Watson. You hit the local scene. You've been spending more time in Paris with Logan and a lot of cats even in New York and around the country. At this point in your life, it is an evolved jazz musician releasing your first album on kind of a sentimental mental flow here. How do you feel about your evolution as a jazz musician?
That's a good question. I like that my evolution has occurred separate from having really spent time in New York. I love New York, and I'm not even anti-New York in any way. I've been after these two questions, it almost sounds like that, but really it's not that. It's just that, New York is a great place, and I go there, and I've got a lot of great musician friends that are there, but I feel like being from where I am, in the Midwest, and traveling around the world from there as opposed to the East Coast, my influences and my past and the sounds I hear are just different. At the same time, I've still been able to, measure my artistry against what is happening on the East Coast scene and what is happening around the world. And I feel good about my development. I'm always continuing to develop. It's a lifelong journey for me. I think it should be for anybody in doing any kind of artistic work. I'm feeling good about it, and I feel good about what this album displays with my journey of this process.
Beautiful. Final question for you here is: do you have a CD release event planned, and how are you going to promote this album with live gigs?
I'm working on certain spot dates in certain cities right now. I'm not going to do like a full-fledged tour, but I'm kind of the cities that some certain cities take priority for me because they're cities that I've spent time in playing, and obviously that's going to be Kansas City, which probably won't be till later this year, just because I really want to get most, if not all, the team together for it, and they're all pretty high-demand players. New York City, Paris, Mexico City, and Tokyo. Those are kind of my cities that I'm focused on, and I will play in other places, of course, but those are the ones I really want to hit in 2017 with the album.
Right on. Well, hey, Hermon, it's always a pleasure to talk to you. It's been a pleasure to watch you evolve in the Kansas City scene, and congratulations on the new album.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York, Kansas City, Paris, and spots all over the globe, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Hermon, as always, for his time and his dedication to Kansas City jazz and that spirit of collaboration. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store, visit neonjazz at youtube.com, or for all things Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the music, my friends.
Neon Jazz.